taken with lies. CPS telling stories trying to ruin our lives. My kid was kidnapped. It was all for the cash, a foster kid, child ring. Man, I swear it's all bad. My kid was kidnapped. It was all for the cash. My kid was kidnapped. It was all for the cash. My kid was kidnapped. They was taken with lies.
It started with the way I looked, progressed to how I carried it. They couldn't stand a man like me, could understand what marriage is. Providing for my wife and kids the way that I inherited. Mama raised a man that don't know nothing but take care of the kids. How can they just come and take what's mine and I ain't caught a case? Never held with CPS, but still my rights were stripped away. Fighting for my right to parent cause I got tats upon my face. See through all your blatant lies, I be the one y'all love to hate. It's wrong what y'all out here doing, lying, taking people's kids. Breaking up a happy home cause y'all don't like the way we live. Long as we providing no abuse, then y'all should mind your biz. Stop messing with my right to live. You're breaking laws, release my kids. Tired, I can take it, this is real and I'ma bear it all. Lawyers, they appointed me, never even took my calls. They falsify my drug screens, flat out lied and that ain't all. This whole case a cover up and they ain't gotta follow laws. Kidnapped.
They was taken with lies. CPS telling stories trying to ruin our lives. My kids was kidnapped. It was all for the cash, a foster kid, child rape. Man, I swear it's all bad. My kids was kidnapped. They was taken with lies. CPS telling stories trying to ruin our lives. My kids was kidnapped. It was all for the cash, a foster kid, child rape. Man, I swear it's all bad. My kids was kidnapped. They was taken with lies. CPS telling stories trying to ruin our lives. My kids was kidnapped. It was all for the cash, a foster kid, child rape. Man, I swear it's all bad. My kids was kidnapped.
Reaching out for help, come on tell me, do y'all feel my pain? Watch my wife cry herself to sleep and I can do a thing. On the verge of losing it, swear I'm about to go insane. Praying that I have the strength to make it through another day. Can't begin to understand all the stuff my kids go through. The pain they feel or what they think for real, it's hard to bear the truth. Snatched away, place with strangers, broke me when I heard the news. Rotting in the prison cell for something I ain't even do. The fight is real and we won't stop till all the kids is coming home. Playing games but they ain't know they dealing with the king of thrones. Lawyered up, got a pit bull, yeah, now it's really on. He did take my family back and trust me, we don't stand alone. This right here's for everyone who going what we going through. Be the voice for all of y'all, the pain y'all feel, I feel it too. This is wrong, it's time for change, pushing hard to make the news. Austin, Trinity, Kiara, Bella, Hope, Cam, this one's for you. Kidnapped.
This song is for all of us facing the struggle. Our kids are being taken with lies and corruption. It's not just happening to me, it's happening to everyone all across this nation. I've seen it firsthand. I've read your stories, your letters, emails. I've read reports, actual findings. Seen it happening to my family, my friends, strangers. We are parents and we're losing our rights based on lies that are being fed to the court. TCF and all these agencies use our kids to keep themselves in business, create false scenarios, change the evidence, pay wars, lie under oath. This has gotta stop. This is wrong. Kidnapped.
Childhood, growing and developing years of a person. This is meant to be a highly important time to create morals, fundamentals, and skills necessary to be a success. Instead, the trauma CPS creates in these young minds set a path of disaster, and statistics prove it. In nearly 90% of their cases, the trauma is unnecessary. Time is the one thing that can never be given back. CPS takes away moments in life that can't be replaced. The time just keeps going, doesn't mean a thing anymore. They left as children, and it's up to them when they come home if they know who you are. Each second away is time you will never get back and keep getting older.
Studies are leading towards incarceration.
Now comes the honorable judge in the halls of justice, where the Constitution will hold strong and your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will trample CPS for all they have done to your child.
The truth and corruption that's revealed to you is enough to make you sick. This is not America we were sold.
Children are being taken from families at the rate of one a minute. It needs to be stopped.
It's time to wake up and abolish CPS.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
All right, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday night CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I am your host, the CPS Punisher. This is going to go away here in a second so I can show you all where the chat room is. It is going to be where it always is. It's going to be right there, right here. This spot here where this little video is, and I'm trying to get off here. That is where we will find an area where you can leave your comments or your questions or anything that you want to talk about. You have questions, concerns, any of that stuff, you can put it right up there in the chat. As soon as I'm able to move this little globe right here that I have right here in my hand. The globe is in my hand. Let's see here. Let me see. Just sorry about this. Oh, look at this. We can replace it. Oh, that's nifty. Oh, wow. Okay. This is really cool. Sorry about this. I'm just seeing this right now. That's really nifty. So you can just replace this now with little images right here. Like, wow. Like, did you guys notice this thumbnail that I did? This one right here. I just did this one. Wow, that's nifty. So I can do little things like that. That's pretty cool. All right. Sorry about that anyway. So maybe I'm going to figure out how to do something with that today. I don't know. But, oh yeah. Like this. Ready? Hey, this is brought to you by DG Enterprises. Pretty cool. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, back to the ranch here. All right, backstage here we got Herbert sitting by, waiting for us to come on in here. Herbert.
Hi.
How we doing this evening, bud?
Fine. How are you?
I'm all right. You're little down here for some reason. Hold on a minute. Ah, there we are. Now we're in the money. How's it going, Herbert?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You hear anything new today? You got anything new?
Well, the only thing I have possibly coming up new is I have a person who I've known for a number of years. Yeah. And while I was reading my material in my books about CPS, something triggered her back into my thoughts.
Okay.
And it had to do with the mention in the book about occupational therapists.
Oh, okay.
And she's an occupational therapist. So I contacted her via phone.
Okay.
And I asked her if she would be interested in coming on the show to share her stories, because she would be the very closest that we will have to an actual social worker.
Oh, right. I mean, I've had it up on you know what? Let me pull this up and we could go over this for a minute. Because I have, I'm figuring out how to use this Reddit thing. Do you know about Reddit?
I heard of Reddit, but what about it?
Well, it's kind of like, it's like a big you know how you have that what's that app that you like, the neighborhood app? It's kind of like the neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah, I get that. Yes.
It's on a bigger scale here. Let me see if I can get in here. Is it Reddit that I was on? Yeah. All right. So maybe it isn't Reddit. Well, what's the other one where you ask questions? Quora. My bad. Quora is the one I was looking for. I am on Reddit too, but on Quora, that's what I meant to say. And I got tons of responses from people that will, that they were peace workers or they've had, relations and all of this type of stuff. But I mean, look at my notifications are blown through the roof here. One of my questions was, why did you work for CPS? If you were on the state side of a parental rights battle, would you come on my show? And let's see, I would never be on the state side in a custody battle. I'm the opposite. Oh, here, let me put this on the screen. Check this stuff out. Where is it? Quora. There we go. Okay. All right. Can you see that, Herbert? Probably not, right? It's probably small on your screen, but no. You can see that there's something there, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that says, he says, they drowned my 5-year-old son after anonymous tip. I would never be on the state side in a custody battle. I'm the opposite. I hate the state's involvement with kids. The churches run most of the foster agencies, and it's just like the orphan trains, only worse. If you go to church, ask them why so many foster parents adopt kids from parents who want their kids, but the state took them and made them available to adopt. It's sick to buy a kid who's CPS kidnapped, but that's what fosters adopt is. And then the guy went on to say some pretty rude things about CPS, which I'm not going to repeat. But that was one of the 7 answers I've gotten here. And then there's, I've never worked for CPS. Okay, here we go, Herbert. Here's one. I worked for CPS as a court investigator for decades. I took the job originally for reasons. One, working for the state provided job financial security, benefits, and a steady, although not great, salary. This was essential for my family. And I, particularly since my spouse suffered from multiple sclerosis, and we knew that eventually I would be the main breadwinner, but mostly I took the job because I care about the welfare of children. I honestly didn't realize until I began training that the focus is actually on repairing and strengthening the family first, then permanently removing the children if the parents fail to overcome the issues that caused the original removal. Like many others, I thought CPS removed children and simply did their best to find another home for the children. I thought I would be focusing more on the children. What I found was CPS taught me the history of CPS, the mistakes made in the past, and how CPS has learned that the best thing for the children is for the parents to become better parents instead of permanently removing the children. I worked with many good people in the 2 states where I had this job, and I would bet anything that the majority of the social workers also took this job because they love kids and want to protect them. You have to be a dedicated to work in this profession that is hated even more than the attorneys, paid far less by many other careers that require a high level of education and come with an immense amount of stress. The decisions made by each individual worker change families and lives. You don't know that stress unless you have to make those decisions. Okay.
I heard you said something about them getting paid less.
Yeah, she said that they get paid less than most jobs that require such a high level of education.
Okay, but then I recall you telling me they get paid a lot.
Well, I mean, that's her opinion of what they get paid. And, we know how states work. States go through their ways of what they do. They could pay someone this much and this one another much. I know in my state, how much do we find out? They're 3, 4, 5 times the amount of what caseworkers are normally getting.
Okay, so I'll go back to what I was saying to you before.
Yeah.
I said that I ran into this friend who's an occupational therapist.
Yeah.
I told her about my involvement with your show.
Yeah.
She said she'll be happy to come on.
Excellent.
I just hung up with her a few minutes ago before I came on the show. So at some point during your show, I'm going to go off and I'm going to send her the link and I'm going to tell her how to get on the show.
Yeah.
So that she could come on for a few minutes and she'll be able to talk about her knowledge and her experiences and working with child protective services and
So
working
what
with
is
social workers.
yeah? What's
And
her
everything.
role? How does her role work with this? Like, what does she do? What is she about?
She's an occupational therapist,
Okay.
and she
And
works with CPS, and she'll give you her whole dossier when she comes on the show. But she
All right.
won't be on the show until another, I don't know, 30 minutes or more, because she wasn't prepared for this
Right.
when I called her. But she
Right.
said she would be willing to come on for a minute. She's also an adjunct professor, and she has papers to review and correct.
Okay.
So if
What
she
is it?
can't make it on the phone to this time, after all the testing as a professor, after she finished all the tests the next following week, she said she has no problem getting on. But I was trying to get her on today just to introduce her so she
Yeah.
can answer questions that you have about child protective services. Because I proposed a number of questions to her about things that I listened to you guys talk about, and she gave me a whole different angle on it.
Oh, I'm sure. What do they call her? Occupational
Therapist.
Okay. Now, what is
Occupational.
what is their job description in the regular world? What an occupational therapist is?
I would just go with the assumption of that they help people in jobs to do their job better. But if you want to get the proper definition, Google it and read it to us. What is an occupational therapist?
An occupational therapist is
Occupational therapist.
Alexa. What's an occupational therapist?
Okay, here's WebMD. Occupational therapists can help you learn new ways to do things, such as getting dressed, driving, or cooking, to increase your independence. They can be helpful for people recovering from an injury or stroke, or who have long-term conditions that affect how you move or think, such as Alzheimer's disease or arthritis. Is there something else you'd like to know?
Can you tell me in detail how occupational therapists might be involved with child protective services?
Is there something else you'd like to know?
Alexa, can you tell me how an occupational therapist would be involved with child protective services? She doesn't like me asking that question.
Why don't you ask the question of what does occupational therapists do with child protective services?
Hey, Alexa, what does an occupational therapist do with child protective services? No, she doesn't like it. So
Okay.
we'll change that.
But once I get the lady on the phone, she'll tell you her involvement.
Right. So
it was very, very much. I was like very impressed with things. I said, I hear that the employees, they make a lot of money. And she laughed and said, no way. They're like the bottom of the scale. And that also justifies what you guys tell me about how poorly a lot of the social worker people act, because they're kind of like at the bottom of the scale of things, and they don't get a lot of money. That's why they act the way they do. So it kind of answers. Okay, when she said that to me, it's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to belittle occupations,
right?
But if you take a worker that works for McDonald's and put them in a high-end steak place, do you expect them to act the same where you're spending $150 for your meal?
No, I mean, you expect them to,
Now, let's do the opposite. Take the high-end steak place and give them a job to work at McDonald's for $15, $16, or $18 an hour. First of all, will they take the job?
Right. Exactly.
So it's hard to get people. She's already told me it's hard to get people to work in that field.
I'm sure. I mean, that's
because
like
they don't get. The reason why it's hard because they don't get paid enough.
Well, what's enough? How much is enough for a person at Child Protective Services? Like what?
Enough is based on the cost of living. A medical doctor is not going to expect to get $75,000 a year, $80,000 a year. Medical doctor.
Right.
Okay.
because
medical doctor, they're looking at what, 2, 3, maybe 400.
Yeah.
Surgeon looking for 8 to $1 million. Okay.
Right.
So you see, it's the pay scale all has to do with what they do, and
Right.
social workers. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, the experience. You're right. You had
Yeah,
said
but
something about it should be adjusted by, or they should get paid by, the cost of living. I think they should be paid by their experience, and they got school bills to pay and stuff like that. They should be paid by their knowledge and experience.
No. They're not getting paid for their college and all that. if they happen to have college loans, yeah, they have to pay that. But they're getting paid on a scale. They're getting paid on a scale for how the job is justified.
Right. And what you're saying is they too have college bills that they have to pay for.
Yep.
They may have college bills. They may not.
Worker is supposed to have a bachelor's degree in some sort of science, right? Like a social science or case worker or whatever.
Sure.
That's in every state. Yep.
Sure.
So you're looking at CPS caseworkers are supposed to make anywhere between, there's a bunch of differences here, but this one says $38,000 to $110,000 a year.
Okay,
That's
good.
A broad scale.
So, it is a broad scale, but let's dance with that broad scale, because you have to take in consideration that when he said CPS worker, that also includes administrator. So the administrator may be on the high end, but the actual worker coming to the house is on the low end.
Okay, but check this one out now. So this is Maine's, okay? Maine's average CPS worker makes $37 an hour or $76,874 a year.
Okay.
I didn't even make that welding, and you look at the hazards that I had with my welding compared to, they don't have a whole lot of hazards in their field.
Right.
Like they're making pretty good money for not doing a whole lot. Not saying that they're not doing a whole lot, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. So this site that I'm looking at ZipRecruiter. Here, I'm going to share this with you. This is ZipRecruiter site, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that they had such a thing. They must have like a job thing here or something. But they have, let me see, where's it? Share the screen. Sorry. Share screen. Let me see, where is it? Salary.
I would like to hear your guests who are not online like we are chime in and say, do CPS workers or social workers, do they make adequate salary? I would like them to respond to that. Do they feel that they make adequate salary?
That's a good question.
Great question.
Well, according to you, Darren, they make too much money.
Well, it depends on what they're doing. And I've never said that they make too much money. That's new words have never come out of my mouth.
No, okay. No. I don't mean that you said that they make too much money, but you implied, look how much money they make.
Yeah, for the job that they
implying that they make a lot of money. That's why I said it. Out of your mouth did not come. You never said they make too much money. You never said that. But I'm saying you're implying that they make a lot of money. And based on statistics, they're not making a lot of money. That's why they're not getting adequate CPS workers.
It says, let me see here, ZipRecruiters.
Do you think a plumber would leave his job to become a CPS worker?
Well, they're not. That's not two different professions.
Right.
It's making. No, let's go with making money. Forget about profession. I want to make money. So I want to make money. Should I go into CPS or should I become a plumber? What do you recommend?
Well, it depends, because this here says ZipRecruiter is seeing salaries as high as $4,446 and as low as $35,339. The majority of social workers' salaries currently range between $58,000, the 25th percentile, and $90,000, 75th percentile, with the top earners, the 90th percentiles, making $111,826 annually.
Yes, but you're not specific on who the workers are.
No, because there's a whole range of them. I mean, they could.
I want to know how much does the young man or young girl that comes to the door that wants to go weld, the wellness check. How much do they make?
Imagine it's going to be the CPS social worker, which is this is the ranges of all of these jobs.
No.
Well, in
You
my
see-
case, it doesn't need to be a social worker, so it could be Joe Blow that's making the same pay as a social worker would coming and investigating.
Right.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that when you said worker, that includes the whole department from the administrator down.
CPS social worker jobs on this is considers a social service specialist 4. Social security specialist 4. This position is full-time and permanent, requiring time in the field in the office. So that's what they're basing that salary off of.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, they have different levels of social work.
That's my point. That's it. There are different levels.
Nope, this says right here, CPS lead worker, social services specialist. CPS lead worker, social services specialist 4, location, blah, blah, blah. This position is full-time and permanent, requiring time in the field. So then it goes on to say family reconciliation services social worker. This one is reconciliation, but that's an FRS. That's not a CPS LW like they're talking about. So no, those are speaking of those people at that 4. We can't say that they're anything other because these are the lists. Clinical social worker, psychiatric inpatient program. Then they have social worker. And then they have social worker LCSW. Then they have social worker 2024-2025 school year. Associate social worker ASW. Social media crisis intervention. Case manager with a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Social worker, again with Indian tribes. And medical social worker. So no, we can't say it's the different levels of this because that place specifically just said that they were dealing with CPS lead worker, social services specialist 4. So let's keep it at that wage, right?
Isn't that like one of their levels?
Right, but for whatever this, but this is what they're basing this salary off of.
Yep.
CPS social worker is what they're naming this. The rest have other names, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
So their salaries will be different when you come across a family reconciliation services social worker.
So would you say they make adequate? Would you say they make adequate funds?
I don't know their job, dude. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't make any money for the job that they have unless they're going after kids that really need it, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
So if they're going after kids that really need it, would you say they're making adequate funds?
I don't know how to tell that, Herbert. I don't know how much was adequate money for you to be a police officer?
It depends on the department. And we have unions. And we're putting our lives out there. I was a cop and I put my life out there for you. You called me on the phone because you said there's somebody in your house about to beat the hell out of you with a baseball bat.
Okay.
You have risk.
I think I should get more money. I think I should get more money than I do.
Right.
Cops from New York are making over $100,000 and that's still not enough.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. How do you determine if a CPS caseworker is if they're making enough determined by them?
Well, that's the point I'm trying to say. According to what I'm hearing, they're not making adequate funds, and that's why they don't have enough people that are going in taking the jobs.
Maybe the ones that specialize in certain areas like behavioral health, maybe they should make more, because they have to know more, about like special needs and disabilities and stuff like that. Just like, I don't know. I think maybe the investigators should know a little or be paid a little bit more because maybe they have a little bit more risk because they're going to a house. They don't know what they're walking into. I mean, like you said, there is kids that do need to be taken and it could be kind of risky. And therefore, they should also know a broad spectrum of everything. They should know about disabilities. They should know about culture. They should know about, social differences, and they should have a more broad knowledge and should have better training when they come as an investigator. I believe should have the top pay.
I agree with that because that's the difference between making a kid leave his family and not.
Yep.
Like that's definitely a difference.
My lead investigating, well, I can't call her the social worker because she doesn't have a license. We determined that in court. My lawyer asked her on the stand what she majored in college. and she has a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Hey guys, you know what? We got our special guest with us right now. We got Gene Laird with us. You remember Laird? You guys know Laird? You know
Maybe.
Laird, right? Yeah, you know Laird. Brooke, you know Laird?
Why don't you put Gene on so we can see him and I can remember him?
Great.
Laird, you want to say
I'm not
hi?
good with names.
Come on, Laird. Bust through for me, buddy. There he is. Here he comes. Laird. Did we lose him?
Is
we lost.
he?
He'll
Oh
come
no.
back. He'll be
Is he
back.
the fellow from Florida?
He's my buddy from Missouri. He's the one that he's very extreme, but he would have been a great one to ask this question to.
I remember Gene. I remember first name Gene.
Yep. He would have been a great one to ask this question to.
You might want to remove that screen you got up there.
Well, I mean, if anybody was looking at it, I want to leave it there for a second.
We can't see it anyway.
Well, I can see it on my 65-inch TV. So anybody else is out there.
We can't see it. It's good that you can see it. It's wonderful you can see it. We can't see it.
Yep. Sure is wonderful. Yeah, Carrie says special needs, autism, things like that. Those are all things that need to be addressed from an occupational therapist, I guess. But Herbert, so you had to wait 30 minutes for her to call her back?
I'm going to call her after a while as the show goes on to try to get her and walk her into how to get on the show.
Okay, that's cool.
I've already sent her the link. She has the link, but I got to walk her through the link because when we send people the link, a lot of times they can't figure out how to get on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's.
Oh, it's very easy. All I got to do is walk them through it.
Yep. That is true.
I want to kind of get back to what I said. Did you catch that at all?
What's that? Which part?
So in Minnesota, you don't need a social worker's license to come do the investigation and the removal of a child. So in my county, they have a lady who went to school, but did not go to school for social work. She went to school for psychology. When you have when she comes up to your door and claims to be a social worker from Cottonwood County, blah, 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 right away, your heart jumps. Okay, so she has a bachelor's in psychology. She knows exactly what you're thinking. She can, almost guide you. And
right.
Body signals, what to expect from you and what will make you react, what will trigger you. Because psychology.
Oh no, Brooke, we're losing you. You're blurbing in and out, bro.
Oh.
Yes.
Doesn't that kind of seem twisted to you?
Yeah, it's not fair that you're right. You're walking into an minute. So before you even contract with them, they're immediately analyzing who you are and what you're about.
Yep.
That's
she has a bachelor's license in psychology.
Right.
And now why couldn't she go take some social worker classes?
Right. Absolutely.
And she's signing her paperwork to you and to the courts as a social worker. She says at the bottom, social worker. She is impersonating is that a government official? I don't think so, but she's impersonating somebody of power.
Right. She's supposed to be a caseworker,
and using scare tactics and saying you have to do this or this or this, or I'm going to take your child, when she doesn't even have the legal authority to be running around with that badge placed on her chest.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a great point. That's a great point. So in all reality, they've already got your number when they come to your door because they're using some high-powered psychologist to not analyze you and make their whatever they got to make up about you. Like you opened the door, you were nervous. What were you nervous about? And then when you're in the courtroom at that 72-hour hearing, they're saying, "Oh, well, it was this woman has a degree in psychology, so she's aware of this." But you were unfairly duped into answering questions by this psychologist.
Yep. Well, and it's funny because when she came, they already had the paperwork filled out. Like they knew they were leaving with my son, and I have proof of it because they have it whited out on the paperwork. Because when they came, I walked over to a friend's house, and they have to put where the removal was from. They whited it out on my paperwork, and they put the address to where I walked to. So they knew they were taking him before they even came over.
Right.
There was nothing I could have said or done or anything to change their mind. They already had the paperwork filled out. And then in her paperwork, she stated that my pupils were extremely dilated. They're trying to say that I was on meth. Well, if you're on that, I looked it up. I did research, and I even showed my lawyer. I'm like, if you're on meth, your pupils are enlarged, not dilated.
Right.
Okay,
They didn't
I'll
even
be
have her facts straight in the court paperwork.
okay. I'm going to interject. I'll be right back. I'm going to leave. I'll come back.
All right, Herbert. We'll be
Thanks for the
waiting
warning,
you.
Herbert.
You're exactly
So, like,
right.
She didn't even have the time. Like they're so sloppy. They didn't even research anything. And the sheriff that said it too said that my eyes were extremely dilated or whatever. And I don't know. I looked it up all over and on like the doctor's websites and shit. My pupils should have been extremely enlarged.
Right. Well, they come in there and they have. Listen, this is the way I see it. They have that book. Like I have the. Let me see if it's right. Oh shoot, my door's locked. Hold on a second. Anyway, they have the SAMHSA manual, right? And it says, like, let's see. Let's just say I don't have it. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I get it. But anyway, it says like pupils fixed and dilated, sweaty, acting out of sorts, blah blah, anger, like things like this. And you're like, okay, everything that I just heard when I heard CPS was coming to take my kids. So now I'm pissed, I'm sweaty, I'm this, I'm that. And then they use it as, oh, they're withdrawing from drugs, or they're doing this, or they're doing that, because they just take a little blurb out of a manual that they have, and then this is what they're sticking to you as a solid, like, okay, this is what they're doing. Look at it, says right here, sweaty, dilated.
When it's a natural reaction to something extreme like that happening, trauma happening, it's a perfectly normal reaction for anybody who has their child removed to have erratic behavior. They put that on mine too. And part of the reason for removal was erratic behavior. It's like, well, what the hell? I said to my social worker the next time I seen her, I said, have you ever taken a baby cub or a baby raccoon from their mom? You wouldn't have walked away. My erratic behavior, I acted mildly when we took him for the third time. Yep,
that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And you know what? Over and over again, I say to people, look at the animals. They'll teach us what we need to know. And so does the Bible. It says, look to the animals. They'll teach us everything we need to know. Stop learning from the book. Watch us. So like you're saying, this is a natural thing, even for animals. So we're no different. I said the other day on the show is that we're the only race of anything or human. What is, I can't remember the species. How does that go? How did that label go? I can't remember. It used to be species, genome, blah blah blah. How it broke down from top to bottom, like you're Homo sapien, blah blah blah. Arachnid, in science or whatever. But anyway, we're the only species at all that lets anything come and take our kids from us.
Nope.
And
that kills me every day. I should have done more. I don't know what more I could have done, but I should have figured something out.
Right, you're gonna have that guilt regardless. Like even if we all know in most of our cases, in most of our scenarios, there wasn't much. Even if we could have gave them the moon or a block of gold, it wasn't gonna matter because the number was already fixed.
Yeah.
There was nothing that could have been done to handle this situation, and that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. I know that's how it was in our case. I mean, we threw everything at them that possibly could have been thrown. And
when you got an attorney, you're supposed to, the Americans Child and Safe Families Act or whatever, they came out with in 2017, said that you're supposed to have accurate and top quality representation in court.
Right.
I definitely didn't fucking have that. He worked for them. I had 168 things to add for evidence for the final trial, and he added 6. Meanwhile, the social workers, they had like 60 some pages of evidence against me or something, and my attorney only handed in 6.
Wow.
I had 168, and I wasn't even done yet.
And how did that?
That it was all junk, I was like, that's not adequate representation or high quality. Right.
Nope. How does that make it for your appeal? How difficult did it make it appeal?
Well, I didn't get an appeal because my attorney walked in there and she went behind my back and voluntarily dismissed it before I even had a chance at an appeal.
What?
Yeah. My public pretender walked into the appeals court behind my back and without my knowledge and voluntarily dismissed my appeal.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
She got a, what do they call that? A domination. I did file like a grievance or whatever against her, to the board of whatever. But it's a board of their peers. It's like other lawyers and other judges and stuff like that. So they just gave her a slap on the wrist and said, if you do it again, then we're going to hit you with something bigger because we don't think you would have won your appeal anyways. Who the fuck are you to say I would have?
Wow.
Who's not saying I had new evidence to bring to light, or
Wow.
Yeah, that really pissed me off.
I can imagine. I mean, how could that not? You know what pissed me off at all?
Oh, go ahead.
Was my wife and I, check this out. My wife and I were. This show is to show you that the GAL is supposed to be neutral, right?
Right.
Well, we were walking out of the courtroom. They were all in front of us. The GAL high fives the caseworker and the assistant attorney general that was prosecuting me. They all high five and start jumping up and down in front of us after they got done with the questioning. Yep, right in the walls of the courtroom. It was the craziest, most damnedest thing I've ever seen.
That's crazy.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's supposed to be typical of what this they do, or if that's I don't know. But I was beside myself. The way that they acted, the way that they couldn't keep their composure together, the fact that they were supposed to be a neutral figure in this thing, and it was all just blown right out the wall right there. But yet I'm the bad guy, right, for calling this stuff out, and they'd say that I'm crazy. Sure I am.
Exactly. My judge, last court hearing that I went to was right before the adoption. They didn't invite me to that hearing, but they something going on with his microphone or whatever. They couldn't hear or something like that, so they're like, okay, we're gonna pause for a second and let IT look at it, And so they paused the video and everything, but they didn't realize that they didn't shut everybody's microphones off. And the judge came down off the stand and sat on the desk next to the district attorney. She kind of like all flirtingly like sits there and crosses her legs on the desk, and she goes, her microphone. I didn't know this, and I had this all screen recorded, but for some reason, I think because of Zoom's privacy, it didn't catch any audio, which I was so pissed. But she goes, I can't believe how much money we're making off these kids. She goes to the district attorney. And he goes, wow. Oh, he kind of like laughs and like shrugs it off. Right. All cute. He's like, we don't really need it anymore. And then I was like, I got these fuckers on tape. I got these guys saying this shit. And I played the video back afterwards, and there's no audio.
Oh, is that the truth? I know that's worked up in the same thing in my case. Let me see if this is. I don't know if this is Laird maybe trying to come in on another thing here. Let me see. Hey Laird, is this you? Oh, and they gone. They left as soon as I brought them in. I don't know if maybe Laird is using someone else's Gail Jacks. I don't know if Gail's Herbert's guest or if that's my buddy Laird.
Good job, Ashley. That was the right thing to do. Ashley, yes. Down in the comments.
What did she have to say?
She said, that's what they all do. My private paid lawyer, after I fired him and his office took over for the firm that represented minors and my baby in the case. She said they thought I wouldn't notice, and I filed for a conflict of interest.
Now, how did that work, Ash? Have you heard about that? Did the conflict of interest stuff work? Because that's really hard too. Like they're not letting you. Conflict of interest is really tough.
Yeah, it is.
Like they don't just let you go by with that. It's really, I couldn't believe how tough it is to get. Even I couldn't believe how the law that is set up for you to recuse your judge is very, very simple, and it's set up so easy that I can't believe it's so difficult to get a judge to be recused. I can't believe it because it's supposed to be set up so that the judicial system doesn't look like a quack to the people. That's what it looks when it says it's shoot fire. What's the name of the thing I'm trying to if you're biased to The bias isn't to how you look at the court. The bias is how the court appears to the average person about how they will appear that the law will be interpreted as. So bias has nothing to do with you or I.
I cannot believe that the judge hears those own hearings. The own judge gets to decide if she's biased or not. That was the biggest waste of 10 minutes of my life. Of course she's going to say to everybody she's not biased.
Right.
Like she literally an hour before one of our court hearings, she was the judge on my son's dad's case. He had a criminal case going on. An hour before our case, how does somebody not walk back into that courtroom and remember that guy and his criminal case going on and not have some sort of way to feel about him?
Right.
I told him to file for a recusal or whatever, and he did. He actually listened to me. But we went in there, and I was like, what the hell is the judge doing here in this hearing? She got to decide if she was biased or not. And I was like, that was the biggest waste, 10 minutes of my time, you know?
Yep, I agree. Oh, I agree. That's just, it just sucks that, see, those are
human, I don't care who you are, is not going to have an opinion of somebody that close between hearings.
Right. And you're going to tell me that CPS or these judges haven't either looked into those files prior to or seen you? Like, that's not fair either, that you get run through the gamut with the same judge through this entire thing. If you, like, say you had, the 72-hour hearing was that judge, and then, like all of these things that you're arguing different arguments about, and then this judge still gets to hear you at your final thing, because now they've heard information that have maybe been struck down, or maybe they've heard information that they shouldn't have been privy to hearing, but they did because they were on the criminal side of you or whatever. So, like, it's not fair that they're allowing this stuff to go through the system like that. It doesn't make any sense. Right. It's not fair.
They oftentimes say that a criminal court person or people in criminal court cases, they have more rights than us parents do.
Right. Absolutely. And if they're going to compare the death penalty to our cases, then they should give us the same amount of time too. Because when you're on death penalty, you get multiple appeals.
Yep. And a jury of our peers and all that.
Right. Right. Why do we not get all of that stuff?
It's a civil death penalty. It is.
Yep, it really is. I've said that since day one, since I've been here, and I'm like, you know what's not fair? It's not fair that we don't get all the options that these death row inmate gets, that they get long time coming, sitting on the, our kids, we get that notice, bang, boom, bing, it's over, and our kids are gone. And you don't even realize what hit you yet. You didn't even get educated yet. You didn't know what was going on.
Yep. Well, it did help when Bill Clinton signed the act. Yep, in 1997, because that was meant to hurry things along even more, because their excuse was to try to hurry up and get kids out of foster care and into a standard home or whatever. That's not what it was. It was to hurry these cases through court so they could have more children.
Right. That's ridiculous. People even say that.
It pisses me off. Right.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it really should. It's just... there's just no way of putting your finger on that feeling that you have. It's just, it really is. Just drives you to the batty. It really does drive you batty.
It does.
So, yeah, well, we got Herbert over there. He's trying to talk our guest into coming on over here, so that'll be cool. Wants to be...
Who's he working on?
This woman, she's an occupational therapist.
Oh, okay.
Hey, here's Herbert now.
Okay, so I tried to get her to come on. She attempted to come on. She said she heard you guys talking.
Oh, okay, so that was her.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she was in here. How about that?
Yeah, but the thing is, since you guys didn't bring her in, she didn't know if she was doing it right, and I was trying to help her, and then she got involved in something, so she won't be able to come on today. She said she could do it tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. Well.
See, I got her to come on. I walked it. I walked her through it. I got her to walk.
Yeah, that's good. You did. I was waiting for you to introduce her since we didn't.
And I told you her name. I told you her name was Gail. I said her name is Gail, and her name is occupation. And I'll go try to get her to come on the show. So I walked her through everything to come on, and she said she hears you guys talking.
Yeah. But we got her for tomorrow night. So we're good. We got her tomorrow night. We know her name's Gail. So that'll be good.
I'm looking at filing. I was gonna send you this email. I gotta get your right email. I don't know if I have your right email, Darren. But it was through the Save the Children group. I'm a whole bunch of groups,
Oh, you're beeping out again, Ash. Yeah, Ash. Jesus Christ, Brooke. Sorry, you started. I don't know what happened. There you go. You got the book.
They gave me a thing to fill out. It's like a statement of claim, I think. So like it would be like going to the courts and asking or like suing them for the wrongdoing stuff.
Okay.
I wonder if you do that and you win, that you can show that you were wronged. Would that have anything about the effect of your outcome of your case then?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that basically goes back to they really care. That's kind of like if it's
like
I mean, we can prove that they're wrong in so many times and so many things, but the judges don't ever seem to rule with this stuff.
Well, like I think we need to go about it. We need to go about it out of the family realm and the civil realm, and we need to go and prosecute and go after them criminally after their oaths and bonds. Is what I want to try.
Right.
Because the people that hold their bonds, they don't care what you had going to court. All they care about is responsible for the judge.
Right.
Because they're going to. And I read. Oh, hold on. Oh. I read somewhere that they file like 95% of them will settle out of court and just make a month court case.
I wonder if I could get Rick Martin in here. I wonder if I could get Rick Martin because he's you know who Rick Martin is?
No.
He's a lawyer. He's a big time constitutional lawyer guy, and that's his biggest thing is to get their oaths of office and push that towards them. And that's my biggest thing. Rick Martin's a big guru. Let me see if he's on right now.
Rick Martin.
Let me see if he's on right now.
Well, let me ask you a question. It'd be nice to get Rick on, but since he's a constitutional person with law, does that really hold up well in these courts?
Well, they're trying to. I mean, they should. I mean, the bottom line is they should because this Constitution.
Trying to and should has happened is three different things. So has Rick Martin using constitutional law been able to help people get their kids back?
People have made headway with constitutional law.
Constitutional law.
Correct.
Okay.
You got to use their own policies, their own laws, and that's where the state comes in.
Oh, he's on right now. Hold on. Maybe I can get him on. Let me see if I can get him on. There you go, Rick. Come on, Rick. Come see me, Rick.
Yeah, you actually had Gail. She was on. All you had to do was bring her in.
I had asked her in the private chat if she was you or if she was my buddy, because my buddy Laird had showed up at the same time too. So
she doesn't know about private chat. She's still learning your format. She doesn't know anything about that.
No, well, I tried to get a hold of her that way, but obviously,
but she doesn't know. It's all new.
She doesn't know about the private chat.
No, she doesn't know anything about anything. Most people, when you send them a link, they don't know anything.
Right.
That's why I go and I handle them. I take them by the hand and I show them what buttons for this, what buttons for that, how you can show your face, how to turn the mic off. I tell them everything, soup to nuts.
No, I know. It's great that you do that too. It's very nice of you to do that.
Well, without doing that, people are going to get discombobulated on how to get on.
Yep. Let me see here. Hold on. You're absolutely right about that. I'm glad that you do that. Here. Let's see if I can. Here's a little bit. You know about constitutional law groups and everything? Do you know about that stuff?
About what?
About constitutional law and how those things work?
Well, I hear about constitutional law from Rick Martin and from the Professor Phil, and from a number of people that deal with constitutional law. And I hear about you're not driving your car, you're traveling. And so I know about most of that stuff from law enforcement point of view. And it doesn't make me a difference because I'm going to give you a ticket anyway. So you go to the judge and deal with it.
Right. This is the thing, is that this stuff is either one has to be used so precisely that it's used in such a way. I mean, that it will be effective, but it has to be used. You know, it has to be used right. And that's the thing. You have
I
to,
just want to know from constitutional law, has people gotten their children back?
they have. I know for a fact Rick Martin's gotten home a couple of families.
That's good.
Yep. So, I mean, but in reality, what is really working and what's not working in these courts, they just pick and choose what they want to have happen or have breakthrough or what they don't. You know, like that's the reality of it. If they
Well,
feel like,
the real reality is the one fix doesn't fix for all. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different situation.
yeah,
So it's not a
Ashley,
one fix.
right. Ashley says that Sean McMillan is a civil rights lawyer and he uses constitutional laws and he wins kids back too. Let me see if I can't get
Where we all go wrong is we get our kids' social security numbers when they're born. That is printed on bond paper. We give our children to the U.S. I'm not going to say government because we're not a government anymore. We hand them over to our states.
Right.
They're
Do you
like
know about parents
our car.
patriot?
We hand them to them. So they, in all reality, and in looking at it from contract law, I mean, they are their property, basically.
So are you suggesting we shouldn't give our kids social security numbers?
That's the way. So if you believe in that stuff, if you believe in that way and the straw man and all of that stuff, that social security number is nothing more than a number for you that you became when you were born. You became a loan for the United States of $1 million or $1.5 million. You were bonded, and then they took your money and they've traded you ever since. That's why that they deserve the right to that money.
Then the parent needs to go and they need to add that child to their trust.
Right. That's where you get all the trust talk. Right.
So are you suggesting that young parents don't give their kids social security numbers?
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
If you
now, if a child doesn't have a social security number, can they go through life without social security number?
Of course they can.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing they're not given is they're not given the same. They wouldn't be able to get social security benefits per se. They wouldn't be able to get free health care. There are things that you can't get once you do these things. But if you're putting yourself together and you're making yourself a sovereign or a nationalist or whatever it is that they're becoming, it's a good way of life too. But
you'll have the money, you'll have the extra income and the money to provide for your family instead of delegating all responsibilities to said government.
Right.
Okay. So without social security number, a child grows up and they want to get a job. They usually ask for a social security number and they'll say, well, I don't have one. My parents never gave me one.
You fill out a form. You're basically like independent contractor. I think it's an I-9 or something.
Yeah,
that you would fill out as you're not a citizen per se.
Right.
So if you don't fill out a social security number, you're saying you're not a citizen.
You're not registered as in the United States.
Right. You're claiming your state as your nationality or your, what are you going to call it? Citizenship.
How many people do that?
A lot.
They're starting to be quite a big number. Do you know that they gave us they started using social security numbers when they freed the blacks, because the blacks did not have citizenship.
No, because the blacks were property.
Yep. So when they all got freed, when about the abolishment came or whatever, they had to get them away to become citizens of the United States. So that's when social security numbers started coming into play.
Okay. So if blacks didn't get social security numbers, they'll still be considered property.
Well, and you just
answered it. We're all property.
We're all slaves. We're all property.
Right. That's the chattel. They call us chattel, or
I'm just trying to understand so I can tell people you don't have to give your child social security number.
You don't have to get a birth certificate. If you look at the paper that your birth certificate is printed on, it's printed on bond paper. You are a stock in a bond that is traded every single day. When you get one of them pieces of paper, I can't remember the exact amount, but automatically you're making them revenue. Every license you get, like if you're a contractor and you get a contractor's license, or if you go in the guards and you take an oath there, that piece of paper is also a bond. They trade that on the stock market. Every ticket you get, every seatbelt ticket, every criminal ticket, that number, if you go and look it up in the bonds in the IRS, there's people that I've seen it. They look them up and they're worth like millions. That ticket number is a bond number.
That goes to Duns and Bradstreet. That's all attached to Duns and Bradstreet and stuff like that. They have Duns numbers, and they all there's a special way that you do it. You take the ones off your certificate of birth. We could do a whole episode on that stuff.
I would love
all
to.
kinds of things. And see,
rabbit holes I'm going down at this moment.
yeah, it's because it's there. I mean, it's there. I'm trying to bring you up this guy right here.
So without social security number, you can obtain a passport.
Negative.
But you are
there's gotta be if you don't have a social security.
You are free to travel from point A to point B as long as it's not commerce.
No, if you want to go to Europe or France, you have to have a passport, right?
Well, they've monetized it that way, yeah.
Okay, so how can a person without a social security number get to France or Europe?
I haven't gone that far yet down into that, Herbert. I haven't gone that.
Well, the reason why I'm asking that question is because I'm just trying to figure out how you can manipulate life without social security number.
I could. You don't need to license your car. You don't need to have, like a license plate on your car. You don't even need a driver's license as long as it's not commerce. If once it's commerce, then you need to have a tag.
However, we did go through this one time. We have gone through and picked out law books, Herbert and I, and we have found that I know that Rick Martin puts those statutes up about the Texas place, but we have not been able to find any other books that says that you can only travel in commerce, because everything that we have researched, Herbert and I all say, even as an individual, you have to do these things to your vehicles. So we haven't found any place to.
Yes, you have to have a license. You have to have a license plate for the state or whatever states. You have to have a driver's license.
I'm right there with you, Brooke. But I saw what Rick Martin said. But then I started looking at Maine, and Maine doesn't have those same clauses that Rick Martin claims. So that's where my draw is.
I'm trying to get educated on how I could drive around without a driver's license and without a license plate.
I'll have to get your email or something, Herbert. I'll send you some videos to watch. Some of my research that I have. I've been doing this for 4 years.
And I've been giving out traffic tickets for 30 years.
Right.
Where's your license? I don't have a license.
You didn't do that in the 40s and 50s.
Did you have to take an oath of office, Herbert, when you?
I got sworn in. I got sworn in as a police officer. Yes.
Okay.
And when I stop a car in violation, I would, if I went to at my discretion, if I want to write a ticket, I ask for a license. They don't have a license, then additional. They get a ticket for the stop sign. They get a ticket for not having a driver's license. And if they don't have their insurance card with them, they get a ticket for that too.
Right.
Hey, I want you guys.
If their license plate is not displayed, either a piece of paper because they just bought the new car, or a plate, they'll get a ticket for that also.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out how I can avoid giving them a ticket by them telling me something constitutional, which I can say, oh, you're constitutional, so I don't have to give you this ticket.
I got lots of videos for you, Herbert. I got lots of videos for you.
And show me the videos. Send me videos where the police did not give the individual a ticket because they're constitutional.
James Brown, we can do that. Our boy James, most tested law.
There's a lot of people nowadays that are starting to try to do that. Yeah, of course you can't be a U.S. citizen and try to use that.
Wait a minute. Here we go.
No, we're talking about U.S. citizens.
Hold on, here we go.
You have to be a state national to go by
Can you
the laws
can
of
you
the land.
see the can you see the section that has to do with chat, our private chats?
Private, yeah, yep,
You see what says Brooke and you say hello?
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you my phone number.
As a subject is a little bit less predictable than some other bar exam subjects, at least in terms of the essay portion of the exam. So constitutional law will require a little bit different of an approach than some of the other videos in this series. Nonetheless, even though the approach is going to be a little bit different, I think it'll be equally effective, right? Because one of the biggest problems in constitutional law for most students is seeing the big picture, how the entire subject fits together. So our focus in this lesson, rather than trying to pick one area of constitutional law that's more frequently tested, we're going to just try to break the whole subject down in 60 minutes, right? So you can kind of see how things fit together. So here in this lesson, it is going to be important under the video. It's always important to do this, but under the video, we are going to have a lot of notes, some more deep dive things to consider, some more exceptions and other limitations to think about if different areas are tested. Again, the primary focus here, though, is just going to be to give you guys the idea and some of the more confusing stuff, how it all fits together, right? Things that are just pure memorization, I'll put below the video, right? If it's easy, if I don't think there's a lot of critical thinking and analysis there, we can put it below the video and you guys can just take a look and memorize that. But what I want to focus on here is the big picture stuff and really just try to break down the subject as a whole, because again, unfortunately, right, constitutional law is just one of these subjects, and really there's only a couple subjects that are like this that is less predictable. So we're going to do the whole subject, break it down so you can see it from the big picture and kind of work in, right? So with that being said, I'm going to set the timer to an hour right here, right? And we can just go ahead and start this. So the clock is now officially going, right? So constitutional law, fortunately, we can break up into three major categories and three major issues, right? Number one, we have power of the feds. Number two, we have federalism. And number three, we have individual rights, right? Power of the feds is going to come up anytime we see a federal government actor taking some sort of action, right? Whether that's the Supreme Court or a federal court, Congress, or the President of the United States, right? If we see any of these parties taking any kind of action on our constitutional law fact pattern, we have to ask the question, well, does the federal government have the power to take this action under the Constitution, right? We know Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution vests the power, the legislative power in Congress. Article 2 vests the executive power in the President of the United States. And Article 3 vests the judiciary power in the Supreme Court and the federal court system, right? So if we see any of these parties taking actions, right? A federal court's hearing and deciding a case, or Congress is passing a law, or the president is negotiating a treaty, issuing an executive order, whatever the president's doing, right? We see any of these parties taking an action on our fact pattern. We have to ask, do those parties, does the federal government have the power to take these actions, right? Under the U.S. Constitution, right? This is the idea of power of the feds. It's establishing that whatever action the federal government is taking, they actually do have the power vested to them in the Constitution to take these actions, right? This is kind of our first bucket, our first category of issues we're going to go over. Next, we'll move into federalism, right? Federalism deals with the relationship between the federal government and all the state governments, right?
Here we go.
And really the way that this presents itself on the bar exam is when we see state actions that conflict with the federal government, right? So we'll ask, does the action of a state government conflict with the feds, right? And here we'll see that there's some powers that are exclusively federal powers, some powers that are exclusively state powers, but most powers we'll see are actually concurrent. Both the federal government and the state government can exercise these powers, right? If you've ever paid a federal income tax and a state income tax, right, you know that there are concurrent powers, right? The federal government and the state government have a lot of concurrent powers they can exercise over you, right? So the question will be, what happens when there's conflicts, right? If we have these concurrent powers, what happens when the federal government and the state government are doing things that kind of overlap and clash with each other. How do we handle those issues? That's the concept of federalism. So anytime on a fact pattern on the bar exam we're seeing some sort of conflicts, different tiffs between state governments and the federal government, we know to think about these federalism issues we're going to go over, right? Predominantly being the Supremacy Clause, preemption, and the Dormant Commerce Clause. Finally, our last bucket that we're going to go over here, and the last kind of third issue you want to think about, is individual rights. This is usually really easy to issue spot on constitutional law fact patterns. Anytime you see the government passing regulations, right, whether it's a state government, a local government, or the federal government, right, Congress is passing laws, we have to make sure that those actions, right, those regulations don't infringe on an individual's constitutional rights, right? And the big ones we're thinking about here are substantive due process, equal protection, and free speech, right? And these are the three we're really going to break down at the end of this video. So we want to make sure, right, that if we have a regulation, right, step one will be, right, imagine we have Congress passing a law, right? We'll have to ask, number one, does Congress have the power to pass this law? Number two, does this law infringe on any individual's constitutional rights, right? If we see a state passing a law, well, we'll have to ask, does this state action conflict with the feds? And also, does this state action infringe on an individual's constitutional rights? So anytime you see a law being passed, whether it's a local law, a state law, or federal law, right, you immediately know that two buckets will be triggered, two major issues will be triggered. Now always, right, as always, you'll read the call of the question. You won't talk about anything that's outside the scope of the call of the question on an essay, but just in your head as you're reading the fact patterns and you're thinking about those calls of the question, it's good to keep these three buckets in mind and really try to sort in your head what we're talking about, right? It's really going to help you issue spot as you go through fact patterns. But we can start with our first major category, right? Power of the feds. Remember here, anytime we see a federal court, the Supreme Court, a federal court, Congress, or the President of the United States taking an action on a bar exam fact pattern, we're thinking, does this party have the power to take this action? We'll start with the Supreme Court and federal courts. So here, anytime we see the Supreme Court or the federal court hearing and deciding a case, right? A case comes before them, they're going to issue their judicial power, right, to review the case and issue a ruling, right? They're going to exercise that Article 3 power. We have to make sure that they actually do have the power to take this action, right? And we'll start with the 11th Amendment, right? The 11th Amendment is a jurisdictional bar, right? And this will come up if we see a state as a defendant, right? So here, if we see an 11th Amendment issue, what it'll look like, right? We'll have a plaintiff, right, suing a state, right, in federal court. That's critical. It'll have to be in federal court. If we see this, right, it's that simple. A plaintiff suing a state in federal court, we're thinking 11th Amendment, right? 11th Amendment is the state sovereign immunity clause, right? The 11th Amendment provides immunity to states, right? So this could be like Texas, right, to agencies of the state, right? This would be like the Texas Department of Public Safety, all the departments and agencies of the state, and state officials. This could be like the governor of Texas, right? All of these parties have immunity in federal court, right? So if a plaintiff is suing a state agency, or a state official in federal court, our starting point rule is going to be the 11th Amendment actually provides immunity if these defendants wish to exercise that immunity, right? If you see the state, a state agency or state official as a defendant in federal court, 11th Amendment provides these agencies, the official, and the state immunity under the state sovereign immunity clause of the 11th Amendment.
All right. See that's very important, right? Because how many times do we hear people talking about going after CPS and what are they going to do? Because this guy just
that's in federal court. I wonder if it's different in district.
After them.
I heard him talking, I heard him speaking, but he gave a lecture. He didn't give us analogies.
Well, he's not trying to get that, he's trying to educate us. So
but that's education has to do with analogies.
He just said right here, 11th Amendment means Texas Department of Safety or whatever, Texas governor, Texas this. If they're an entity, if they're this or they're that, they enjoy the 11th Amendment immunity
Good.
clause.
Give me an example.
Okay, Department of Children's Services in Maine. If I'm suing the Maine State Department of Human Services, they can go ahead and get the 11th Amendment against me and get immunity. So I can't sue them in federal court as an entity.
Federal court.
Okay.
I mean, where else are you going to sue them?
Okay.
In district?
Because he went on and on with his lecture, but I was trying to bring it to the nitty gritty on how it involves us on a daily basis. Like, for example, if you were doing this and doing this and doing that, then this could happen and that could happen, this could happen. Then that would bring everything he's saying into understanding.
Well, so if you're a parent that's been wronged by CPS, and you go to sue them, a lot of people don't want to, or just jump right to the federal level, because obviously the district, there's corruption or something like that, where they go to sue these officials for the wrongdoings in their CPS case. The state officials can claim immunity in federal court, which I think that's kind of wrong, but
right. And this has been our argument.
How do you hold them accountable then?
Right. This is what the argument has been ongoing, is that we cannot sue these caseworkers. We always all talk about this. Now, this is what the thing is Brooke, this is where what you're talking about comes into play with going after their bonds, their oaths of office and things like that. So what that is a way, supposedly by the constitutionalists, is a way to break through the barriers of their immunity, is you go after the bonds and their oaths of office and then attack them in that way, because then if they're not upholding their oath of office, which is to the Constitution of the United States, then it's treason and yada, yada, yada. That's where those arguments come into play, because of this 11th Amendment protection that they get, that they're issued by our Constitution.
Right.
So you can't, so constitutionalists can't argue that this is bunk, because you can't, because they're actually following the Constitution. So in using that, that's where these things come into play, like what you're talking about. And some of them have been provable to work, some of them haven't been. But it's like anything that's going to be taking down the government or what's going to work for them, they're obviously going to downplay it, and they're obviously going to tell you it doesn't work, and they're obviously going to make the cases that they don't want. But that's where this goes. I just want to listen to like one more minute, and we'll get out of here. But that's my whole purpose of what I was just talking about.
Okay, Brooke, did you get my phone number?
I did.
Okay, give me a call after the show.
Okay.
Right? So there are some exceptions to keep in mind here. Number one, we have consent, right? As always, a state can consent, right? Even if they have immunity, the state can waive that 11th Amendment protection and consent to being sued, right? If we have a state official like the governor of Texas, it's important to ask, well, who's actually paying the bill, right? Who is paying, right? If the actual state is paying, right, state funds are being used, right? If the plaintiff is successful, he's going to recover state funds, right? Then that official can exercise 11th Amendment immunity. But if the official is personally liable, 11th Amendment doesn't apply. Imagine we just have a car accident, right? Plaintiff gets into an accident with the governor of Texas, right? Plaintiff is from Florida, right? Texas governor is going to be a citizen of Texas. Imagine it's a $100,000 personal injury case. Well, we know the federal court's going to have diversity jurisdiction to hear the case, right? If we remember back from civil procedure. And here, just because he's the governor of Texas, right? The defendant's the governor of Texas, doesn't just give him absolute immunity, right? He's personally liable for this car accident. Texas funds won't be used in a personal injury case, right? So here, just because you're the governor of Texas, that doesn't give you absolute immunity in all lawsuits in federal court, right? That would not make sense. So in this instance, right, you always ask if you see a state official footing the bill, right, then you know, okay, 11th Amendment doesn't apply. If a state official is being personally liable, is being held personally liable, they can't exercise their state sovereign immunity under the 11th Amendment. The other big exception to look out for would be congressional authorization, right? Congress in the actual statute says that they're abrogating 11th Amendment state sovereign immunity, right? They're basically saying, hey, look, if you're sued under this cause of action we're creating in this act, right, being passed by Congress, you can't exercise immunity under the 11th Amendment. They can actually put this, but they have to do so clearly and expressly, and it has to relate to the enforcement of the 13th, 14th, or 15th Amendment, right? If it's for any other reason, the state can still exercise immunity, right? The abrogation clause would be invalid. But you'd want to look out for that, right? An actual abrogation clause in the act passed by Congress, right? That creates the cause of action that the plaintiff is relying on. If you see that and it's done so clearly and expressly, which has to be given to you in the fact pattern, right? It'll actually say, right? I have a fact pattern right here, right? Here it says, this is just a statute from a prior bar exam. Section 204 provides that any action brought pursuant to Section 203 may be brought in federal or state court, and that if brought in federal court against a state, its agencies, or subdivisions, any defense of immunity under the 11th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is abrogated, right? That's an abrogation clause. Now, the reason that on this bar exam fact pattern it was invalid is because it didn't have anything to do with enforcement of the 13th, 14th, or 15th Amendment, right? This was a Violence in the Workplace Act, right? Nothing to do with involuntary servitude, due process, equal protection, or voter rights, right? It's just a violence in the workplace statute. So Congress can't put an abrogation clause on state sovereign immunity in that case. So even though they put an abrogation clause and they did so clearly and expressly, it's invalid, right? Because this isn't enforcement of the 13th, 14th, and 15th or 15th Amendment, right? So that's 11th Amendment, state sovereign immunity, right? Anytime we see a defendant being a state agency, or state official, we're thinking 11th Amendment, right? Next, we have justiciability. Justiciability, I'm gonna switch markers because this one's running out of ink. Justiciability, right, comes down to 3 elements, right? We have injury.
All right, so we don't need that. So there, I just wanted to go over that little bit there because that helps a lot of people. You know, people talk about, you know, like the big thing is suing these people and, you know, getting around that. Brooke talks a lot about the constitutional law and things like that. And that was just, you know, that was just.
What was that guy's name again?
This guy's name is, I don't know, Constitutional Bar Review, Bar Blitz Preview. Let me see here.
You want to send me that video?
Sure. There's like a whole series of them. What they are is these are bar exam. These are bar exam.
Tutoring.
Like getting ready for the bar exam stuff.
Right. And who's getting ready? Who would be getting ready for the bar exam? Somebody that's been studying law. Is that correct?
Yeah. Or whatever.
Okay. So how does that apply to a person that just had their child stolen?
Did you not just listen to what Brooke and I conversated about?
Yep.
Everything you guys are talking about.
Okay, then you would understand that who that would apply to.
It would apply to a person that's going to go for the bar exam.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you limit your education, you're only, you know, as much as you want to learn. If we learn what they are learning, you have to use their own policies and their procedures against them because they're not doing things right, and then everybody just assumes that they are, you know.
I agree with you, but you have to know their knowledge.
That's why, yeah, we're listening to the bar stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now when people tell you that, oh, I'm going to sue CPS, you're going to say, how are you going to do that? They have immunity. Do you know how to get rid of that immunity clause? There you go. So it's nonsense when people say that. That's what I'm talking about. That's people are learning how to go around. Now we need to figure out a route around it, which is what Brooke's doing.
Yep.
That's why Brooke's going to call me.
You got to go from the inside, work your way from the inside out.
Yep.
That's why I want you to call me.
I will.
So.
I will.
All right, guys. Let's wrap this one up. Last words, Herbert.
Oh yeah, last words is to do everything you can to avoid being a victim of CPS so that you don't have to go through all that we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. What about you, Brooke? What's your last words?
One, just kind of a life lesson in general. Always keep an open mind.
Yes.
Once you become closed-minded, you stop learning, and at that point, you're worthless.
Right.
I think you
Yeah,
gotta always keep an open mind. Anything is possible.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. Closed-minded people suck.
Yes.
And I will thank you guys for being on the show with me tonight. I appreciate it, Brooke, Herbert, and I'm going to go with Brooke on that too. I like that. Closed-minded people suck. You know, this is CPS. We're all trying to fight through whatever we can fight through to win this thing to get our kids home. We all need to realize that we're all on the same team, no matter what. If someone's smarter than you, shut your mouth and listen. Maybe you'll learn something. People that are combative are no good. Get them out of your life. Don't give your big ideas to small-minded people. You'll never be successful. There's a whole array of things that you need to learn in your life to make yourself get back on foundation and get yourself back to where you should get your kids from. We all get lost in this stuff when we're get stuck in these cases. And, you know, I believe in you. A bunch of other people believe in you that are around here. And, you know, you guys can do this. So take the information that we're giving you. Learn it, study it, get your ass out there, fight these people. Let's get our kids back. That's all we're trying to do here. Just trying to educate so that people can get their kids back. So I'm the CPS Punisher. I'm out of here. Have a good night, guys.
Getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, babe, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate, separate and segregate. Don't celebrate quite yet, the storm is coming, Q, for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate. The values of our country and our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on these streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour and troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpents.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I know the truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Suspected something's going on, but chose to just neglect it. Deflected by some breaking news, oh, we just accept it. Expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective. Don't question their objective, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Read it in the testament, these children are protected. So I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic. Refuse to be directed, lying not a sheep. Only kneel to my God, so I'm dying on my feet. Silence when we speak, but there's violence in the street. I've been rolling with the punches, I can't take it on the cheek. Drink from a glass, I'm optimistic. People are sadistic, so vicious and malicious. Praying for assistance to overcome opposition, or I'm gonna start resisting and then I'll pray for forgiveness.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. We need